Alright, so this is the lesson on something called slope-intercept form. And before we get into the formal part of slope-intercept, just kind of want to talk about why this is the next lesson. In the last lesson, we talked about direct variation equations and the idea that that type of equation, y equals m times x, could be used anytime we had some kind of proportional relationship. Okay, but there are other situations where things aren't proportional. Okay, and so we get something that's a little bit different. So kind of take note here. What we've got is y equals 1/3 x. And if all that was there without this plus 2, this would fit our direct variation equation and it would be proportional. But because there's this plus 2, we're no longer dealing with proportional relationships. So slope-intercept is for situations that aren't necessarily proportional. Okay, now we're going to learn some shortcuts here, but what I want to do first here is I want to just show you and point out a few things. All right, for example, if I were to do this the most basic way, which is make a table, pick some points, one of the first things that we see is that if I plug in x is 0, x times 1/3 would be 0 because x is 0, plus 2, y would be 2. And right away, we see what we were just talking about, which is this is not proportional. If you recall from our last lesson that proportional equations always start at 0, 0. But this one doesn't. This one starts at 0, 2. Okay, and in fact, that's this 2, because if I plug in x is 0, this just basically disappeared. So this 2 is this 2 over here. Okay, and that'll tie into the next part of the lesson. Now, we still have slope though. If I start picking other numbers like 1 times 1/3 is 1/3, plus 2 would be 2 1/3. So I'd go across 1 up to 2 1/3. Let's pick a few. Let's do 2 and let's do 3. If I do this, I get 2 2/3, and 3 times 1/3 is 1, plus 2, I get 3. So 2 2/3, and then 3 3. All right, and if you look here, basically, I get something similar to the last lesson, which is the slope m here is the same as the slope of my graph. 1/3, up 1 over 3, up 1 over 3, up 1 over 3. So what we're basically going to talk about in the next video is how these numbers, if we understand how they work when we go to graph something, that we can actually see how to graph it without doing this and just using the numbers directly. And again, this is something we can do when the equation is in what we call slope-intercept form. All right, so let's take a look, move on, and we'll take a look at the next video.